Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Redmen TV and your latest episode of Expert Insight. My name is Dan Club. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by the brilliant, and now forgive me, everybody forgive me, Anantaajith Raghuraman from The Athletic. Was that okay?
Yeah, that's very good.
Thanks. I was going to ask you off air how to pronounce it, and I completely forgot. And then I started the intro, and I'm panicking in my head. I was really panicking. But okay, I put that down. Everyone listening and most people watching will know my cricket background. I put that down to watching years and years of cricket and getting used to these different pronunciations. Let's put it that way. And first and foremost, massively appreciate you joining me. How are you doing? You okay?
I'm very good. Very happy to be here. And thank you so much for having me.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure. I'm looking forward to it. I initially contacted you because you did a brilliant piece on Federico Chiesa for The Athletic, of course, centering around the data and the numbers that make him the player that he is, by and large. So let's delve into that in a bit more detail if we can. I want to start off with, because it's been one of the prevailing aspects, really, of Liverpool speaking about him. It's been that versatility that he offers. I think a lot of us are expecting him to be the right wing back up to Salah, but he's a lot more than that, isn't he, when you look at his profile, when you look at what he's done in his career. Speak to us about what you found and also where you think he is best utilised.
I think you make a few really valid points in that. Chiesa, I think the biggest plus with him is that he brings a degree of versatility, which obviously Liverpool have a bit with their current forwards, which apart from Salah, who you might put down as a proper right winger, I think typically Gakpo's played down the middle or on the left. Jota's done the same. And before these guys came in, we saw Klopp using Mane in a similar way, where he started on the left and played as a false nine or a centre forward. So I think Liverpool have always valued that kind of versatility, and that's what Chiesa brings. And this is something I think me and my colleague Andy Jones touched on in the article about Chiesa, which is that he can play across the front line, which gives Liverpool more options. Not that they need many, because they already have 5 really good forwards in that team. But yeah, I think his ideal position from what we've seen since obviously his ACL injury is that he does play best on the right. And that's where he's played most often across his career. So, which is a bit of a surprise because he's a right winger, and we've just seen kind of this shift across football of kind of inverted wingers where they're coming in onto their stronger foot. So it would make sense that Chiesa plays a lot more on the left maybe, but I think his preferred position has been the right, and that's where he's kind of made a name for himself. And based on his qualities, it's obviously very difficult to judge him from last season because the way Allegri used him was way different, where he played more as either a second striker with Vlahovic or instead of him. And he rarely played out on the flanks. And this was something we saw the season before, as he was like kind of eased back in after his injury as well, where he was playing in a variety of different roles. He even ended up as a right wing back at some times, which was strange to see. And kind of, it was again something Juventus fans didn't seem very happy about. And I think his preferred position, or the position where he's strongest at, is surely on the right. And that's where I think as kind of a Salah backup or an alternative, based on, given Liverpool will be in Europe, the increased games in the Champions League, both cups, I think that depth really helps. And I think that's where he will get most of his minutes this season.
No, absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. I think he will almost be pigeonholed as that position in that role in this Liverpool squad because of the makeup of it, as you alluded to there. But it's fascinating how he has had so many varied roles already in his short career, he's 26, but in his career up until this point, he has done 3 very separate roles very well. So he does have that impressive versatility. Just on that then, a little bit more detail, if he is going to be the understudy to Salah, like we all expect, how different is he to Salah? Obviously, you mentioned the footedness thing, which is a thing, but he will play that right wing role in a completely different manner.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is one of the things, again, that we really investigated a bit when we were doing the article, which was that Chiesa brings a very different profile. So he's not going to be a player who's going to manage the goal or assist returns of Salah, whose numbers are mind-boggling, really, for a winger to get that many goals and assists. And again, he started the season in a similar way, and I don't think anybody will be surprised if he gets 20 goals again, because that's just how good he is. With Chiesa, I think what we're looking at is a winger who's got pace to burn. I think that is one of his key qualities, in that he's not skilled in the sense where he's going to nutmeg a couple of players and get past them. No, he's more raw pace where he can knock the ball on the side of the defender, and before the defender reacts, he's gone and he's got the ball. And which is the thing. So because he's comfortable on both feet, he can be a player who cuts inside off the right, which we see Salah do every week. But I think his on the right side, playing on his preferred right foot, he provides a very different profile. And that's something Slot has had with his wingers at both Feyenoord and Alkmaar before that, where he's encouraged his wingers to kind of create these 1v1 situations using the fullback and then kind of take them on, beat them, and then play these kind of low cutbacks, low crosses into the box that the attackers can then, the centre forwards can then attack. So he provides that profile. So it's a bit of variability, and you don't know, you can get either side from Chiesa really, where he can cut inside and send a rocket of a shot into the net, or he can take your man on and keep sending a barrage of crosses. And that's something which we've seen kind of Salah's game has kind of evolved from that, I think. There used to be a point, I think, in his first 3-4 years where Salah, the dribbler, used to really drive fear into the hearts of defenders. You wouldn't want to be in a 1v1 with Salah, which is still quite true because he's still got pace. But even the numbers kind of indicate, and this is something we touched upon, that Salah is now, his passings evolved a lot more, and he is trying to get himself more into goal-scoring positions. So he's kind of become the star man goal scoring wise for Liverpool, especially now with Mane is also gone and the new signings are still, none of them have been really prolific, though they all contribute, Jota, Nunes, Gakpo, but I think star man still undoubtedly Salah. So his game, both in the final season under Klopp, final couple of seasons, and how he started under Slot, does seem to be that his passing's gotten more emphasis now than him dribbling or taking players on consistently. And the numbers kind of reflect that as well, like his stake-ons have gone down, and at the same time his passing's really improved. So that is something he's been working on. And with Chiesa, you're getting kind of a profile that is kind of similar to the old Salah. He's not, may not be as pacey, as good, especially after the ACL injury, but you're getting a player who's going to go into those one-on-ones. He's going to be confident of beating his marker, and he's going to send more balls in and just kind of, I think, send defenses kind of on the back foot, because he can, if he gets past the defender, he can cause a lot of damage both from out wide and out in the middle. So I think that different profile and a little more unpredictability, I think, is the key thing he offers Liverpool that will be different from Salah.
No, absolutely, yeah, and it's nice to have that alternative as well. He's always like a throwback to the old Salah, as you referenced there, and Salah has definitely evolved and changed his game. You know, he's not the player he once was, but he's still hurting teams just as much, just in a different way, really. We'll pick up on that then in that case, because I know in sort of preparation for this, I asked you to sort of have a look at the players that Arne Slot has had in the past. Obviously, Minter was one of them. We know quite well now. Idrissi, Luis Sinisterra. It feels to me like, from what you just said there, then, that Chiesa, being that almost throwback to old Salah, is more accustomed and more like what Arne Slot's been dealing with in the past. Is that a fair assessment?
I think so, yeah. I think that is a fair assessment in that. So even if we look at each of those three wingers you've just mentioned, which is Sinisterra, Idrissi and Minte, I think from Sinisterra is a bit of a unique case, because his best season under Slot, which is and the best season of his career in 21-22, where he scored 20 plus goals, had nearly 15 assists in all competitions. It's been a bit of an outlier within Sinisterra's career in that he's really struggled to match those numbers again. Obviously, he's at Bournemouth now, and we'll see how he gets on. But with Sinisterra, I think Slot had a profile which was maybe similar to what you'd see with the current day Salah, where I think Sinisterra wasn't really required to be too involved in build-up. He was obviously still very good at taking players on, but it was more, he wasn't as involved in build-up, but he was still a really good crosser. He's still a good dribbler, obviously, but he was getting more into goal-scoring positions. And so it is maybe a bit of a different profile to what Chiesa might offer. And it's kind of similar with Idrissi as well. But Idrissi obviously was, I think, does boast better shooting numbers than Chiesa. So Chiesa can be a bit erratic when he's taking his shots. And even last season, I think he got 1 on 3 shots on target, roughly. So he can be a bit of a high volume shooter, but he doesn't get enough of them on target. And that is something Idrissi did well, but his goal returns just didn't really reflect it. He didn't get into double digits in the league. And though he did play quite well and, again, fit more into that Slot mold where he could take a defender on, beat him from the outside, and then deliver balls for the centre forward to attack. In terms of just purely impact, minutes, and the kind of return we might get from Chiesa, I think the most valid comparison is probably Minte, and because Minte obviously played around 35, 36 games for Feyenoord last year, but he started only 22 of those, and he was largely coming off the bench, making an impact against tired defenses, and playing in slightly more lower stake games, if that makes sense. So I think that kind of is where Chiesa will find himself, because of Salah's undroppable and just how good he is. And Minte, like we saw, I think one of the things with Minte was that he was also slightly struggled with his shooting. He wasn't the most prolific passer because he was willing to be more daring with the kind of passes he played. And he was quite dependent on his dribbling to kind of fashion opportunities, which is I think what Liverpool will get from Chiesa as well. In that you'll get a high volume dribbler who'll take his man on, create chances. And that's what Minte was doing a lot. But again, he did it in fairly limited minutes, which is what Chiesa will likely be dealing with this season. So I think Minte is probably the best comparison. And Minte's numbers, I think, were still fairly decent. 22 starts, I think he got 8 goals and 6 assists, which I think if you can get out of Chiesa this season, it may play a big difference in comparison to how last season ended. Once it seemed a bit like the fatigue got to Liverpool, and then just the expectations of being in 4 competitions, competing in all of them, kind of seemed to get to them. And I think having Chiesa as an alternative to Salah in that way might really help, and as an alternative to any of the other forwards as well. Yeah. So that might be the kind of return that Liverpool likely get this season.
Yeah, I mean, you take that in a heartbeat, especially when you've got 5 other lads who are likely to be certainly chipping in, but as you mentioned earlier on, in Mo Salah's case, a bit more than chipping in, most probably. And Chiesa's high class. To have a forward of that caliber is like what will probably be a 6th option in terms of pecking order.
Yeah.